Hello, you beautiful bastards, and welcome to my so-called show. Even though the Living Daylights was still kind of dividing people, no time was wasted to get the next Bond made, with the ambition to make it darker and grittier. Was this an ambition that paid off, or would it turn off loyal fans? Well, slutty drug dealer moles and knife-wielding maniacs, let's find out. This is License to Kill. Released in July 1989, License to Kill starts off with Bond, played for the final time by Timothy Dalton, being the best man to Felix Leiter, played once again by David Hedison on his wedding day. Oh, that's nice. But sadly, while on the way to the ceremony, a big-time drug lord named Franz Sanchez, played by Robert Davi, shows up to teach his cheating bitch a lesson. Ha! That old teacher! But Bond and Felix end up capturing him with an awesome technique that definitely wasn't ripped off in The Dark Knight Rises. After that, Felix gets married and Bond gets to be the best man, who's also allowing his friend's wife to flirt with him. No, seriously, she looks like she's after his 007 inches.
Oh my.
But oh no, one of Felix's buddies helped Franz escape. Later that night, Sanchez has Felix captured to have his leg eaten by a shark. And his wife is killed. Bond finds out and boy is he pissed.
Son of a bitch must pay.
And with M being a dick, Bond tells him to fuck off and decides to go rogue. He meets up with sexy DEA agent Pan Bouvier, played by Kerry Lowell, who agrees to help him. And even Q gets involved. But is Bond out of his depth? And is there more to list than his personal vendetta?
There's more to this than your personal vendetta.
Oh, well, that answers my question then. While The Living Daylights was a return to gritty form for the suave secret agent, this turned the intensity up to 11.
It's one louder, isn't it?
Going even darker, more violent, with more what the fuck just happened there moments. It's a film that divided a lot of people. Some praised this movie as how Bond's portrayal felt more faithful to Ian Fleming's creation.
Make a sound, and you're dead.
Then there was the complaints from the fans who were expecting this to be a more conventional Bond adventure.
This is terrible. I can't bring my 6- and 7-year-olds to see Bond anymore. Well, it was never made for 6- and 7-year-olds.
Me personally, this was the first Bond movie that got me interested in the character. I was only 8, so I was unaware of the controversy, and as an adult, now aware of the controversy, it's one of my favourites. I like the fact this took the character in a more darker direction. It challenges the character, and it's a shame that it wouldn't be more appreciated until 2006 when Bond would return to his darker roots again in Casino Royale. But anyway, what makes this film work and not work? Timothy Dalton is at his best here as the cold-blooded assassin, and damn, he really is out for blood here. This is a Bond that has zero fucks to give. He is ruthless, vengeful, and is willing to fuck up anyone who had a hand in what happened to Felix and his wife, and he sells every fucking moment of it. The dude does not fuck about. In one scene, one of the agents who sold out Felix tries to bribe Bond with the actual money he was bribed with, and what does Bond do?
You earned it. You keep it, old buddy.
God, what a terrible waste of money.
It's a great scene that establishes the ruthlessness of the character, yet it also shows that Bond can't be bought, and he still has a moral compass. While for years Bond was becoming more and more like a superhuman, this movie wasn't afraid to ground him more. Yeah, he allows his personal feelings to affect his judgment, screwing up an ongoing sting operation and compromising a deal that would have prevented Sanchez from supplying weapons that would have killed innocent people, but it never ruins his character. He realises what he did was wrong and does set out to make it right. Not once does he come across as an idiot despite his bloodlust. Like in this scene where he meets Sanchez under the pretense as a hired killer seeking employment. You know he is looking for a good vantage point while also scoping out the room, looking for an opportunity to get at Sanchez. Also, is it just me or does Bond come across more menacing here than the villains?
In my business, you prepare for the unexpected.
And what business is that?
I help people with problems.
Problem solver.
I'm more of a problem eliminator.
Whatever, I love it anyway. But his encounter provides him with a plan B. When Sanchez rescues him later from the ninjas,
Makes sense to me.
it pays off as we see Bond use his previous encounters with Sanchez's goons to play divide and conquer as a way to influence Sanchez into becoming more paranoid and mistrustful of his men, like Milton Crest, played by Anthony Zerbe. Earlier in the movie, Bond rips off the money Crest was collecting for Sanchez. And while in Sanchez's hospitality, he implies that Crest was involved in a deal to have Sanchez bumped off with his money, leading to Bond to plant the money quickly in order to convince Sanchez of Crest's treachery. And it works, leading to Sanchez to kill Crest in the most brutal, gruesome way ever created in a Bond movie. In fact, while we're on the subject, this might be the most violent Bond film I've ever seen. People don't just die, they fucking suffer. Like in the scene where Dario gets turned into fucking mincemeat. And yeah, it's fucking brutal. The man even screams for Sanchez to save him. Jesus Christ, I love this movie. But back to Dalton, this was his final Bond role, and it's a shame as you can see he's really grown into the role, especially since the script seems more tailored to his interpretation of the character. And he could have done more. He had a contract for more movies, but sadly legal issues affected Eon for years, and by the time they were able to make the next one, Dalton would have been 48 and would have had to do Die Another Day when he was in his late 50s. So it's understandable why he jumped ship. But either way, as short as his tenure was, I still think he was great in the role, and you can tell he was giving his 110%, not once phoning it in. The amount of passion he put into making his character more believable makes me appreciate him more, not only as Bond or an actor, but as a human being. Michael Kamen's score really sets the darker tone. Every note composed adds more intensity to the danger Bond gets plunged into. In fact, you want to hear visceral, violent intensity in music form, Kamen was your man, and his version of the Bond theme kicks ass also. I also love the title theme by Gladys Knight. It feels like a callback to the more soulful Bond themes of Shirley Bassey, while still feeling relevant to the 80s. John Glenn once again delivers on the directing with some exciting yet intense action that really puts Bond in danger. The risks feel real, especially in the final climax. It was also his final Bond movie as a director, and I got to give credit. While Guy Hamilton and Terrence Young brought a sense of class to the movies they directed, Glenn came across as a director who wanted to make the threats surrounding Bond feel more real, to make his adventures both compelling as well as challenging. Robert Grant as M and Carolyn Bliss as Moneypenny make their final appearances. Grant's version of M seems a lot more hardened and more colder than Lee's version. You can make the argument he has to in order to have some discipline in his organisation, but if there was a few moments that showed he was secretly supporting Bond while pretending to be against him, going rogue to avoid his superiors breathing down his neck, it would have made him a bit more likeable. And Bliss is very sadly wasted in the role, and God bless her. If the next Bond film hadn't taken years to get off the ground and Dalton returned, she probably would have returned and been given more of a chance to shine in the role more. David Hedison also returns as Felix, and while his version was more comedic in Live and Let Die, here he gets to portray Felix with some more dramatic weight.
Where's my wife?
Don't worry. We gave her a nice honeymoon.
Even though his character becomes a plot device, he is given enough personality and charm to make him endearing. And even though he's well older than Dalton, they both sell the friendship, and I like that they involved the Felix from Live and Let Die in the storyline of the shark biting off Felix's leg from the original Live and Let Die novel. The legendary Frank McRae takes a break from being shouty lieutenants to playing the more mild-mannered Sharky. He's not all that tough or competent in the field, but McRae gives him a likeable everyman quality, and to this day I still get pissed off at his death.
Nice work, Carl.
Thanks, Mr. Chris. Guess what? His name was Sharky.
Son of a bitch must pay.
Carey Lowell might be one of my favourite Bond girls as DEA agent Pam Bouvier. She's tough, smart, and even though she saves Bond's life multiple times, not once does she do it in a way that makes him look stupid. She's good at infiltrating, looks great with short hair, and boy does she rock a pistol-packing pair of legs. But she shows she can be vulnerable as well. She's in love with Bond and gets jealous when he sleeps with other women. And I love the look on Q's face when Lupe tells Pam that Bond slept with her. He looks like a guy who knows some drama is coming and is just annoyed to get involved. And speaking of which, Desmond Llewellyn might be at his best here as Q. And seeing him risk getting sacked or even arrested for aiding and abetting Bond does show how much he cares for him. Not only that, it makes him more endearing. Even when Pam gets jealous, he goes out of his way to reassure her like some kind old uncle.
I love James so much. I'll be damned if I'll help him.
Look, don't judge him too harshly, my dear. Field operatives must often use every means at their disposal to achieve their objectives.
Bullshit!
Him, Dalton, and Lowell make a great trio, and I even like how Q tosses away one of his gadgets since Bond isn't there to destroy it. God bless you, Desmond Llewellyn, you beautiful bastard. The villains are also memorable. Anthony Zerbe is an entertainingly punchable prick as Milton Crest, and I do kind of feel sorry for him when he gets thrown into the pressure tank. Yeah, he's a smug, arrogant prick, but he was innocent. Even Bond is shocked at how Sanchez handled the situation. Don Schround is just there as hell of a, yet somehow he's still awesome. Nothing else I can say, so he's just cool, so I'm moving on. This was also Benicio del Toro's big screen debut as the smiling, knife-wielding Dario, and man, he makes the most of what little screen time he has. He was only in his early 20s when he did this movie, but the pure charisma he displays on screen, you can tell he was getting into the character. So much he nearly cut Timothy Dalton's hand in the scene where he's trying to prevent himself from being ground into mincemeat. Talk about dedication. But the main man is none other than Sanchez himself, played by the legendary Robert Davi. This man is so ruthless, so mean, so intimidating, yet he's so cool and he's so charming and he's so fun to watch. You can tell Davi is having a blast in the role.
Hey, no fooling around with my girl.
You kidding? After what you did to that guy on the islands?
You like my little Valentine, huh?
But he also feels like an actually fully fleshed character. He values loyalty over money, even to the point of splattering Crest's entrails over the money he's suspected of stealing.
You think I'm stupid? Huh? You ripped me off, then used my own money to pay someone to kill me? You want it so bad. And take it!
And his development from smart, composed, charming drug lord to irrational maniac whose empire is crumbling before him after Bond gets involved does feel consistent to his character journey. And his death pays off a great setup.
You could have had everything.
Don't you want to know why?
It's poetic, clever, and any time a villain's death is used as a fuck you from Bond, I'm all for it. Even when Bond finally gets his revenge, he doesn't even laugh or jump in the air, he's just relieved as well as exhausted, mentally and physically. And bless your heart, Wayne Newton as Joe Butcher. He's a lying scamming evangelist and I can't but love him.
Bless your heart.
And yes, this is where we get to my criticisms of this movie. Dalton and Lowell don't have much romantic chemistry. They do well as a duo, but I never felt that he had that connection with her the way he had with Kara in The Living Daylights. And once again, Dalton still never comes across as a ladies' man. I buy him as an assassin, but he doesn't come across as suave as the previous Bond, especially Brosnan's Bond later on. He looks out of place in the tux, and that should never be the case. There's also a moment that gets repeated where Q and Pam help him and then he tells them to go, she works alone, and later on they help him again, only for him to say the same thing again, and all it did was convince me that this film could have been written a little tighter. And this is where I do agree with the haters of the more gritty and darker tone, as it does rob the romanticism of what made these films so successful. Also, why is Felix Leiter so overtly happy here at the end? I mean, okay, you've just woke up and you've heard your wife is killed and SA'd, and are you on some kind of fucking medication at the moment? Is that why you're happy? It's really weird. It's weird. Seriously.
What is
wrong with you?
And lastly, Talisa Soto is really wooden, and you can make the argument it's deliberate as she's basically using Bond to help her escape Sanchez, but I didn't really buy her as a sympathetic character. But despite my criticisms, I do still admire the chances this film took, while also providing him with meaner, more challenging villains that actually came across as a real threat. It's not as good as the later movie GoldenEye that would do a better job balancing the gritty tone of the Dalton movies with the romanticism of the Connery and Moore era, but with some mean-spirited humour, an awesome score by Michael Kamen, memorable characters, and some intense action. License to Kill has a license to thrill. So that was License to Kill. Next up, GoldenEye.